Happy Valentine's Day! Let's talk about love. No! Well... Brandon Rogers has almost created an entire subgenre of internet comedy for himself. Insanely fast-paced, short-form skits, intensely saturated with color, content, and inappropriate humor. In a niche like this, it seems rather difficult to fully develop a character in their story, let alone a deep connection to another, but he has made it happen. Through the years of this universe existing and developing, we can examine and analyze multiple examples of meaningful relationships between his characters. Yep, you guys loved my first analysis video on Blame the Hero, so we're back with another, way too many months later. This time, to celebrate the holiday, I'll be discussing the platonic connection between Sam and Donna, the romantic connection between Bryce and Bobby, and the romantic connection between Blame and Duke developed through widespread headcanon. Sam and Donna were first introduced in a video titled Sam's Not Having It, uploaded on February 15th, 2016. Like nearly all of Brandon's videos introducing a new character, this video gave an accelerated, disjointed look at the unlikely duo of a flamboyant, heterosexual southern man and a cantankerous old woman. In this video, you don't get a clear look at their relationship, other than arguments with so many excellent one-liners, but I think this is a smart move. It leaves the audience with questions, which opens the door for development. We continue to see Sam and Donna's interactions through other one-shot videos, such as Sam Does Hollywood and Sam Loves America. Here, we begin to see their relationship unfold more, and we as an audience begin to truly invest in them. Through the arguments and chaos, there are small moments of tenderness, such as when Donna loses the audition and Sam comforts her in Sam Does Hollywood. These moments all lead up to the biggest production for the two of them, Stuff and Sam, beginning in October of 2017. Stuff and Sam follows Sam on his adventure of hosting a talk show with Donna and becoming a father, which of course is met with many obstacles along the way. Through the beginning episodes, while there's not a lot of explicit depth, the relationship between Sam and Donna is being developed. There's this underlying message that when you have someone you truly love, you won't ever struggle alone, even if you lose all your money to the IRS. The defining episode for these two characters is episode 13, How I Met Donna. This episode outlines the backstory of the duo, showing how Sam was adopted by Donna because she lost her son, later revealed to be Elmer. When she loses her memory, he dyes his hair blonde to jog her memory and reintroduces himself as her roommate. This reverts her back to normal until episode 18, where Bryce literally slaps some sense into Donna and she remembers her true identity. Now that she has her real son, she thinks she doesn't need Sam anymore and blames him for 20 years of memory loss. After Sam goes through a brief moment of solitude, he encounters Donna again in the final episode. She realizes and admits that she is nothing without Sam, her best friend and roommate. Sam moves back in and they raise Elmer together, concluding the series. Something is so special about this pair because of their unique platonic bond. In media today, it is quite rare that you come across a strong friendship between a man and a woman that does not have romantic or sexual undertones, let alone a pair with such an age difference. It is reminiscent of the film Harold and Maude, in which two very unique individuals have a bond no one really understands but them. Through the absolute dysfunction, these characters are consistently there for each other, and it's something beautiful to see. Speaking of dysfunction, our next meaningful relationship to discuss is the romantic partnership between Bryce Thrust and Bobby Worst, referred to by the fanbase as Worst Thrust. This relationship is very different from Sam and Donna's for multiple reasons. First off, unlike Sam and Donna, they weren't introduced as a pair. In fact, each character got a significant amount of solo screen time and character development before they were revealed together for the first time, which caught Brandon's fanbase by great surprise. Second, something that should be mentioned in a discussion of this couple is that Brandon plays both characters, an incredible feat when playing out a classic love story. It takes serious range as an actor to be able to have that strong of chemistry with yourself. Anyway, we'll start by unpacking the journey of our Red Queen, Bryce Thrust. Something incredibly interesting about Bryce is that her second appearance ever was about her unrelenting hatred for love and romance in CEO Hates Valentine's Day, released 4 years ago today on February 14th, 2017. This is very similar to many of Brandon's other one-shot videos, lots of one-liners and physical comedy with very little depth. Moving into Stuff and Sam, we learn more about Bryce, the most fascinating feature about her being the relationship with the heart. It is revealed that she clones the Elmers to harvest their hearts for two things money cannot buy: immortality and compassion. She uses these hearts both to literally survive and to feel human emotions, the latter almost more tongue-in-cheek because her character is quite cold and heartless even with these hearts. At this point in time, it is unclear why she does not have a heart of her own, but that is revealed later. Here, we move on to the humble beginnings of our horny terrorist, Bobby Worst. He has a very similar start to Bryce, first featured in The Worst Villain on September 28, 2018. Well, actually, that's not entirely correct. Bobby's first real appearance was actually in a video called That Kid in PE that was released almost 3 months prior, but we aren't aware that that's Bobby until Blame the Hero. Anyway, Bobby has beginnings very similar to most of the characters in the BRCU, just a one-note, high-energy caricature, basically the definition of chaotic evil. Something interesting about both him and Bryce is that they were both still quite likable when they had absolutely no humility or backstory you could empathize with. These elements only skyrocketed their likability, and they come in through our key video, Blame the Hero Episode 3, A Radioactive Love Story. This episode is almost a short film within itself, with a complete arc between these two characters. We find out how Bryce loses her heart, and how Bryce and Bobby both became villains, with a song and everything! Finally, we reach the moment they reunite in the Cornhole Cafe. Their emotions are complicated, a mix of love, regret, and resentment, and they can only find the strength to kill each other through the poisoned air that turns them into the worst versions of themselves. In one of the most beautiful shots of the entire series, we leave them to die, side by side. That is, until episode 7. These actions are reversed and Bryce becomes president with Bobby by her side. There's something I love about this couple because while they're both villains, they have two very distinct personalities that complement each other well, and I don't think Worst Thrust would work if they behaved the same. Bobby is very immature, fiery, and chaotic, while Bryce is very calculated, dominant, and full of power. Again, we're examining a gender dynamic not often seen in media, where the woman clearly wears the pants in the relationship. I love how these characters have been fleshed out and how their lore continues to build beyond this series. Our last pairing is quite an interesting one because these characters are only seen together for parts of one episode, and there's no romantic involvement shown explicitly. However, the relationship has been so heavily extrapolated upon by Brandon's fanbase that it has skyrocketed in popularity over the last 2 years, becoming one of the most popular ships in the fandom alongside Worst Thrust. This is the story of the phenomenon of Blayduke, the relationship between Blame Hernandez and American assassin Duke Tugger. Moving into the final act of Blame the Hero, tension is at an all-time high. Blame and Elmer are fighting over the time machine, and they travel to where the time machine was created, trapping them in 1942. Blame gets kidnapped, and suddenly, 4 new characters are introduced. This decision was an interesting one, to say the least. Hardly ever do you see an entire new plotline and set of characters introduced in the final episode of a series, but somehow it worked. It really fits the chaotic, fast-paced energy of the rest of Brandon's content. From here, what I don't believe Brandon anticipated was how much the audience would grow attached to these new characters, the assassins, particularly the weapons expert, Duke Tugger. Played by Anthony Padilla, his character is gruff, overenthusiastic, and a little out there. His interactions with Blame are quite interesting, and something you might miss in the first watch. Let's take a look. Right in the assassin's introduction, we see their first moments of intense closeness and initial feelings of intimidation. Then, moving into the car, this interesting bonding moment where Blame blows the weed smoke in Duke's face and Blame's fist bump is met with whatever that is. It's adorable. Finally, the main moment we'll be observing here, the stabbing scene. We see Blame and Duke outside of the kitchen, stabbing 2 of the guards, slowly smiling at each other as What Am I to Do by Baby Powder plays in the background. Now, I'm going to ask you all a question. Why would this scene exist with the song and everything if there wasn't supposed to be romantic subtext? Anyway, back to the objective analysis. When the creator puts out content, of course they will expect audience feedback, opinions, and possibly some theories to spread. What I know Brandon didn't expect was this theorized romance to completely blow up and continue spreading to this day, nearly 2 years later. This pairing was first noticed and shared by Charlie, Instagram user Sneakier Than Sam, and it spread like wildfire. Fan art, edits, and widespread calls to action to get Brandon to acknowledge this ship. It quickly became like a game Brandon and Anthony became aware of to see how long they could go without saying the word, Blayduke. Obviously, these characters could never come back because there's no way for them to really exist in the world of the BRCU without this Hitler subplot. So, it begs the question, how has their popularity survived to this day? Well, a group of fans decided, if we're not getting more content, we might as well make our own. These characters have been brought back in numerous fan works, including a prequel novel on Wattpad titled Guns, Knives, and Nazis, and a multi-animator short film titled A Very Blatant Christmas, listed on YouTube as We Created a Brandon Rogers Christmas Special. Not to toot my own horn, but I did direct, edit, co-write, and voice act for that one. Anyway, the main point we can see here is how much power a fanbase truly has to shape the content they've been given and grow the canon universe beyond what the initial creator even expects. We see two characters with less than half an hour of screen time together reach just as much popularity as the relationship between Bobby and Bryce, so much so that people even fight about which one is better. I believe this is a representation not only of the love between Blame and Duke, but the love between a fan and a creator, and the true passion it takes to make a tiny seed like this grow. Well, we've reached the end of this discussion on love. What have we learned today? In the midst of the candy-colored chaos, it is tenderness and humility that keeps fans coming back for more. It is seen beautifully here, and I'm sure we'll see this more and more as the universe begins to grow and expand. I hope you have a lover today, whether it's a best friend, a supervillain, or an assassin. Go find them and hold them tight. And, maybe, spread the love by dropping a subscribe if you love what you saw here. Anyway, thanks for watching.